Okay, Marxism and Dorian Gray. To begin with, I want to say that this book was fantastic and fanciful to read, and I don't think I've ever read a book with so many broad meanings other than the Bible. Alright, so let's make a clear thesis in order to organize our thoughts for this presentation. My overall thesis is that Marxism is most definitely related to Dorian Gray through symbolic meanings. Oscar Wilde uses figurative language in numerous ways in order to make a clear understanding of the characters' opinions throughout the book and how they differ between the rich and the poor. He uses allusions in order to hint you that society is almost biased to the rich and the beautiful. And then he also uses motives to show you that society may very well be biased to the rich and the beautiful, but how that would lead to society's downfall in the long run. But wait, I'm not done yet. Okay, these are the three things that the symbolic meanings do to the reader, so I think. First, they're going to reflect on themselves. When they read this book, they're going to think of how much they actually reflect on, beauty, how much they value beauty and how much they value being rich. Then they're going to reflect the society they live in. They're going to think about how much their society is just messed up. And then after that, when they finish the book, hopefully they are going to be subjective to downgrading money and beauty's worth. In order to keep moving on in this presentation, it's important to know what Marxism actually is. Marxism is a theory that has to do with politics, diplomacy, and government. And the belief is that humans, institutions, and actions are created and evoked or provoked due to the government, the economy, basically the culture that they live in. And it also believes that the class struggle is the basic agency for historical change, and that capitalism will one day be taken over by communism, aka socialism. Marxism shows how the relations struggle between the oppressed and the oppressors. You can have, and this is globally and politically, it's kind of like masters over servants and slaves, and lords over serfs. Based on the conviction that socialism is inevitable, the free enterprise system was doomed due to the socialism that is the only alternative. Capitalism was basically dying in the modern class world. But communists also believe that the lower class will one day revolt, and that revolution would lead to changing how the government is ran. A lot like how Les Mis sings, "Do you hear the people sing?" at the end of the play. Okay. Marxism's original thought and origin was from German political philosophers Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. They basically wanted to understand the concept of the class struggle. These two actually, what I thought was interesting, lived in the same era as Oscar Wilde, which they thought was going to be their generation turning into the new communism era, or moving forward to the 20th century. When the two met, they started coming up with revolutionary ideas in Paris. Paris didn't like this, so Paris kicked them out. They moved to Belgium, and there they joined a communist support group and wrote the famous work Communism Manifesto. I think it's important to know a little bit about where Oscar Wilde's coming from and his opinions about Marxism and how that is portrayed in Dorian Gray throughout the book. Oscar Wilde was a Marxist himself. His opinion was that capitalism was not working for people, and a lot of people had to suffer from it actually. he explains that communism could fix everything pretty much and how it could create individualism. And he writes about this in a book called The Soul of a Man Under Socialism. And I took this book from the quote because I thought it explained this very well. It says, socialism, communism, whatever you choose to call it, by converting private property to public wealth and substituting cooperation for competition, will restore society to its proper condition of a thoroughly healthy organism and ensure the material of well-being through each member in the community. In Dorian Gray, though, you take somebody like Lord Henry and Dorian himself, and you see how they're living such a good and pleasurable life in their society because of how rich they are. And then you look at James and Sybil Vane, even Basil, who don't have the same treatment. They're just treated totally different. Their life is totally different, only because special people, beautiful and rich, are accepted, and that's it. Representing that the rich, the classy, the well-known, the popular people are the only ones that fit in, as if there wasn't any room for anyone else to live a happy life. Okay, so getting deeper into how figurative language represents Marx's views, you take manners versus morals and immorals, and you put those together, and you see how it reflects how ugly the world really is. And the book has a quote saying, "It feels instinctively that manners are more important than morals." And this is a paradigm generalizing that the entire country is adjusting, or they need to adjust their level of importance in morals. And there's also the quote that says, "The books that the world calls immoral are the books that the world shows its own shame." This is a mononymy saying that the book makes people feel their shame. But really, it means that the meanings from inside the book are what shows people what they really look like on the inside, what their core values really are. You take illusions, and you have things like James Vane and the Yellow Book, and they come together affecting Dorian's mind and actions. James represents the tortured conscience of Dorian, while the book just inspires Dorian to do crazy, weird, simple things. The book kind of represents the influence of art, basically the culture, and how it has a negative effect on Dorian. And you put these together, you would think Dorian's reputation would be torn apart. You think that his reputation would no longer be good. But it is good. His reputation, even in the end of the book, to other people, is still pretty good. Because why? Because people choose not to believe any of the rumors about Dorian because he's rich, because he's beautiful. A shameful reputation is only for the poor, right? And last but not least, we have the motives. And as we all know, white represents innocence, the innocence that Dorian once had. And then you have the major motive of influence and corruption, or the rich, on Dorian and society. They play a role in leading to Dorian's downfall in the end. And I took this into thought that Dorian was probably actually representing society as a whole. He was representing how sinful the world really is. And that just because people are so easily forgetting of how nasty Dorian's heart really is, that leads to his downfall, which leads to society's downfall in the end. And so what? Who cares if there's Marxism and Dorian Gray, and why does it matter? Well, Marxism can be used to critique the economy, and critiquing the economy can be a really good thing, because who doesn't get good off of being critiqued? We're critiqued all the time. You need to be critiqued in order to get better. You find better solutions to make the country or whatever a better place. For them, it was socialism, and so they think, at least, they could possibly answer. They thought that socialism could actually be the answer that people were so desperate to find, even in today's world. And how else would we live in a world without critiquing? This is my citation page. Thank you for listening.